Alex is CEO of the web hosting company T35 Hosting, which he founded in 1999 and grew to over 600,000 clients by 2009. In 2011, he co-founded the advertising agency Smart Sites, which manages over $20 million a year in ad spend, and this year was featured in the Inc. 5000 as one of the fastest growing agencies in the United States. Alex has been featured in Top 100 Young Entrepreneurs, Babson College Business of the Year, Business Week's Top 25 Entrepreneurs Under 25, Bloomberg, Forbes, NPR, Impact 100, Barack Obama's Entrepreneurship Initiative, and Inc. magazine. Quite a list. Please join me in welcoming Alex Melen.
How are you guys doing today?
Good.
A great session for you today. I know the final session between you guys and the happy hour that starts in 30 minutes. So I'll try to make this pleasant experience. I'll try to make this very educational. Earlier today, for those of you who were at the morning keynote, Mark Stewart actually talked about the distinction between education and training. He said that training is more like a sunburn, where it hurts and then slowly fades away. So I'll try to make it more educational than training, so hopefully you guys don't have a painful sunburn for this. So we'll start this off. So the agenda for today is we're going to talk about embracing digital, we're going to talk about online marketing, we're going to talk about measurement, we're going to have some great takeaways, and then I'll try to save some time for Q&A, by which time the drinks will be out, so that should be an exciting Q&A. All right, let's jump right in. I have to remember I have to clicker. Let's talk about embracing digital. I'd like to start this off with a relevant example that you can kind of connect to, so it's not some distant idea that's kind of very hard to connect to personally. We're going to talk about Toys R Us. It's a very recent example. As most of you know, Toys R Us recently filed for bankruptcy protection. They almost made it to holiday season where they actually make most of their money for the year, but they were this close to making it and just didn't make it. But it's an interesting story about a company who did not embrace digital. So if we go all the way back, hard for me to see the screen from here, but I also need one here closer. But I believe that headline is from 2002. So Toys R Us was actually one of the first companies who had an online presence. They actually had a website, they had a domain. They were very on top of that stuff. They had it back in the late 90s when there were maybe 50, 100 websites out there. But in 2002, in 2002, they decided that digital wasn't something they wanted to focus on. They decided that the brick and mortar business was much more important to them. The digital was going to be more of a fad and not something they really wanted to dedicate their resources to. So they sold off their entire online operation pretty much to Amazon. So if you wanted to buy a toy that Toys R Us sold, it would actually be forwarded to Amazon, and it helped grow the entire Amazon business and was part of the Amazon success story. For Toys R Us, obviously, it didn't work out as well. That should be, I think, about 2009. 2009, they realized that this was a terrible idea. They literally sent all their customers to Amazon. If you were a parent and wanted to buy a toy for your child, literally Toys R Us said that don't buy from us online. If you want to buy online, just buy through Amazon. 2009, they went through a very costly battle with Amazon where they pretty much said, we messed up, time to actually focus on digital. But unfortunately, even then, it was a very half-hearted effort. At that time, they decided to make digital kind of a standalone store. So what that means is that if you wanted to buy from their website, it was literally the inventory of one store. If what you wanted to buy wasn't in that physical store at the time, you couldn't buy it. If you wanted to buy and have it shipped to your local store to pick up, you couldn't do that either. So they kind of tried to change their ways, but by 2009 it was probably a little bit late and the effort was just not enough. And as you guys know from the recent headlines, that didn't work out as well. So before we jump in, I just wanted to kind of set the recent example of companies that don't embrace digital. Obviously, everyone here is at the Digital Dealer Conference, so you guys are the ones embracing digital. But just to remember that even bigger companies who are really at the forefront of digital could really lose their way a little bit and really didn't see it as a big avenue for sales. 2017, obviously, it's a little bit different now. Everyone kind of realizes that digital is a big deal. We should be doing digital. But at the same time, there's still a lot of companies that don't do digital, still don't invest a lot in digital, and still don't see it as a kind of the growing market for generating sales or generating revenue. And I'm a numbers guy, so a lot of this, unfortunately, for some people, a lot of this presentation will be numbers focused and very formula focused. So the quants in the room will appreciate it. For others, I apologize in advance. But we're going to go through a lot of numbers, and at the end, we're going to do some takeaways. So it won't be just numbers. But and I'm sorry this doesn't have a heading. What we're looking at is the amount of media people consume. So if we talk about marketing, advertising, you really want to be where your customers are. You really want to spend your money advertising on the platforms where your customers are spending their time, which makes sense. What we're looking at is the amount of hours an average person in the U.S. spends in different mediums. 2018 is forecasted on the left side is 2012, middle 2016, and again 2018 is a forecasted number. And some people don't realize that it's been growing by this much, but literally people now in the U.S. spend 6 hours a day consuming media on their cell phone. To illustrate this, I'd love to do an example. Can you get a show of hands for people who have spent more than 2 hours on their cell phone today? Show of hands, please. And please look around the audience. This is a great kind of marketing sample size. And keep in mind, right now is 5 p.m., so there's still some time in there. Show of hands, people have spent 2 hours watching TV today. Show of hands, and feel free to look around the audience. We don't have a single hand up for people who spent 2 hours watching TV today. This is a huge shift in consumer behavior. If I was doing this presentation 5-6 years ago, I would say the consumption between TV and digital would be very close to equal. Today, by the audience in the room, you could yourself judge that there's been a huge shift, and there will continue to be a shift. Gotta use the clicker. Next step after that is not only are people spending a lot more time consuming digital media, as you can see here, the advertising spend doesn't reflect that. And there's a lot of interesting analysis that come into play where there's a lot of big advertising companies that literally look for this disconnect and try to invest in the platforms that have this disconnect. Digital has a huge disconnect. Literally, U.S. media consumption, 47% of all digital consumption. This is 2016. I assure you 2017 will be higher, and I assure you 2018 will be higher. In 2016, 47% of all media consumption happened on digital. And again, this is sometimes hard to visualize. From our example that we just did, it helps. But if you think of yourself, if you come home and you see that your sink is leaking, right? Very few people these days wait for the TV ad to run about plumbing or the radio ad or the print ad. Even when we start talking about segmenting digital to desktop and mobile, very few people go on their computer and look up I need a plumber, right? A lot of people just take out their cell phone and just search it, and that's where the media consumption happens. At the same time, the ad spend hasn't caught up. Majority of ad spend is still done on TV. So it's been a very interesting phenomenon where people are paying attention to TV less and less. When they're paying attention to TV, they're also on their cell phones. A lot of these metrics where it says people still watch TV, you think about when you watch TV, you're still looking at your cell phone, you're still consuming cell phone media. At the same time, the dollars are still in TV. There's a lot of very big companies that continue to invest a lot in TV ads, and unfortunately, they're spending money in a shrinking market, and they're spending more and more to try to get a bigger pie of the shrinking market. So before we jump into anything, I just wanted to kind of preface our discussion with all these numbers so we know where we're coming from when we talk about digital. So today we're going to talk about online marketing, as some of you guys might know from the agenda slide. We're going to talk about pay-per-click, we're going to talk about SEO, and we're going to talk about social. And of course, we're going to talk about measurement of all these platforms. Jump right in. So I warned you guys before, I'm a numbers quant guy, so everything's going to be formulas. So again, I apologize, but we'll break it down a little further after that. The formula for pay-per-click is very interesting. you want your customer value to be higher than your cost per click multiplied by the conversion rate. So what does that mean? It means you want your cost to acquire that customer to be less than the lifetime value of that customer. Seems pretty simple, but it's a very powerful formula. And the benefit with pay-per-click is it's very scalable. So when you actually nail it down, when you say I'm going to spend $1 and I'm going to get $5 in lifetime value, it's very easy to scale and expand that and just get more sales, more traffic. We're going to do another exercise to make sure everyone's still awake and alive in the room. For this one, we're going to do it a little differently. I want you to raise your hand. We're going to start off with different platforms. We're going to start off with Google AdWords. So please raise your hand if you're familiar with Google AdWords or you've run advertising campaigns on Google AdWords. And for this exercise, please keep your hands raised as we go through a couple more. So keep your hands raised if you've done AdWords and Facebook. Still a lot of hands raised, almost the same hands. And we'll go in Bing. Keep your hands raised if you've done all three. So a couple of hands went down. We still have a lot of hands that have done these three platforms. The takeaway I want to give you guys here today is that along with these three platforms, there's actually a lot of other platforms. And a lot of it is really incremental reach. So I'm going to go off the other big ones on here. You have Twitter, you have LinkedIn Ads, you have AdRoll, you have AOLA advertising that's still around even though they discontinued Instant Messenger this week, or they announced this week they're discontinuing it. And you have Yahoo Gemini. Can get someone to raise their hands if they have done all these platforms or are familiar with these platforms. Raise your hands. Nobody. So the takeaway, and this session is all about takeaways. I want you guys to kind of go home with some extra knowledge. Again, don't want anyone with sunburns or painful training sessions. I really want you to take away some knowledge from this. The takeaway here is there are a lot of platforms, and a lot of it is really incremental. For example, Yahoo Gemini is a very interesting platform. When Yahoo made their deal with Bing, they decided that they're going to keep their mobile properties on its own platform. So if you're advertising on Bing, your ads actually won't show up on Yahoo's mobile properties, whether it's Yahoo Finance or any of their apps. The big takeaway here is that they might not have huge market share, right? They might not have a lot of searches, but a lot of it's incremental that you wouldn't get otherwise. Someone using Yahoo Finance and sees your ad, they wouldn't have seen it otherwise because you wouldn't be advertising there. A lot of your competitors are probably not on these platforms, but that's a good thing. You could really capture market share. So takeaway from the pay-per-click slide is it's very easy to, once you have the formula down and you know what your cost is, and everything is, you can measure everything, you'll know all the metrics. Once you know your cost is this, and your lifetime value is this, it's very easy to scale, and then you want to be on all the platforms so you're getting a lot of reach. Next one up is search engine optimization. Again, we're going to do this with formulas. Search engine optimization is actually an interesting one because I've presented this formula a couple of times, and people come up to me after and say, I thought it was a lot more complicated than this, and there are some more complicated components, but in general, this is literally the formula for SEO. The formula is you have unique content, you have relevant links, minus technical errors. So unique content multiplied by relevant links minus technical errors. So the way it works is, in Google's eyes, what's most important is for you to have unique content on your website. The more content, the better. Think of it this way. Every piece of content is another opportunity for ranking on Google for something. So if you write up an article about a new car model that's about to come out for your dealership, that's another opportunity for you to come up on Google when someone searches for that specific car model or even specific trim. The other big piece is relevant links. So how does Google determine whether your site is important or not? You could have just started your website yesterday and Google wouldn't otherwise know whether it's an important site. So they determine it by other important sites linking to you. So if you have CNN, for example, linking to your site or another authoritative website, Google sees that as a very positive thing and they rank you higher. And the third piece is, of course, technical errors. Google always puts out a lot of information on how your website should be structured, how they see best practices being used and how you should be applying them. That's also a big thing. You could have tons of content, have everyone link to you, and if for some reason you have what's called a robot.txt file blocking Google, you won't show up in Google at all. So all three components are very important. Of course, my example up there might be a little bit blurry. Why did they show up number 2? Literally every, not only dealership, but every brand would love to be up for that keyword, right? You have Porsche, you have Audi, they'd love to be up there. They want to be number 1, number 2. Why does car and driver show up there as number 2? Again, it comes back to the formula. They have the most unique content about luxury cars. You could go to the site, there's tools you could use. You can actually look up the amount of unique content pages they have. Number 2 is the relevant links. Again, there's a lot of tools. You could literally look up the amount of unique sites that link to them. And all this is very quantifiable. For example, you just started, let's say, a new dealership, a new brand. Doesn't really matter, but you do a Google search and you see all these guys up and you go, how do I rank there? Literally, there's third-party tools. You could look up and you could see exactly how much content they have, exactly how many links they have, and you could say, this is what I need to get here. This is the strategy. I know I need 1,000 pieces of content. I know I need 1,000 sites to link to me. And let's put together a roadmap together. Social media. So social media is probably one of the newer platforms. It's been around for a while, but it hasn't really been used for a lot of companies for a long time. This, I feel like, could also be explained with a formula of followers times engagement. And I'll give you an example of why that formula is important. If you have a lot of followers, let's say you decide that Twitter is your most important platform, you have 10,000 followers. If no one engages with your content, that means really nothing. You can push out all the content you want, but those people just stop using Twitter, or they might not even be real people. A lot of social media, unfortunately, has blogs and all of that. It really has no value. You could be spending a lot of time and money investing in social media, but you're really pushing out content to no one. The real big effect of social media is when other people start engaging with your content. So you might have, other extremes, a lot of followers. Let's say you have 100 followers on Instagram. That's not a lot. So you have 100 people who see your content. But if they start engaging with your content, if they start liking and sharing it, all of a sudden your reach is amplified. If you have one person that has 1 million followers that shares your ad because they thought it was funny or creative or whatever it is, all of a sudden your reach is amplified thousands of times past your original followers. And some quick tips, as always, I like to give people some takeaways, and we'll have a summary slide in that. Quick tips of things you could do to make this better. You want to optimize your profiles. Every social media page is different. You should be using different header pictures, they're all different dimensions. You really optimize. You want to pick the ones you're going to focus on and then optimize those. You really shouldn't be using the same content, same headers, same pictures on all of them. You want to integrate with your website. I've run into a lot of people that have great social media presence, but it's just not integrated to their website. People show up on their website, they have no idea. They have these great assets that could build the value of their site, but nobody knows. And then number 2, number 3 points up there is kind of good points of how to grow it. Usually it's very, lost its mind. Take notes almost the end of the day. Almost time for the happy hour over there. How do you grow your social media? That's another one I get asked pretty often. People say, I made my social media site, I made Instagram, I made Twitter. Now what? No one's following me on there. Quick tips. And again, both of these points, there's tools you can use for it. Number 2 is follow users who are your competitors. So there are tools where you put in your competitors' Instagram, Twitter, and shows everyone who follows them. The idea is that these people are interested in your competitor's brand, probably be interested in you. Number 2 is you can follow hashtags. And what's great about social media is what's called discoverability. So people could discover content without specifically looking for you. Someone just wants to read what people are posting about cars, or Audi, or Porsche, or Infiniti. And they literally, with those hashtags, you could see who those people are and then follow them. When you follow them, they get a notification that you're following them, and they're incentivized to follow you back. So we're going to try to bring this all together and talk about measurements. So all these pieces are great, and a lot of people do it here and there, but a lot of people do it without measurements. So we're going to do our last exercise for the night. Make sure that everyone's still here with me. We're going to talk about measurement and different types of measurements. So raise your hand if you're doing right now website measurement. So this is Google Analytics. There's a couple other analytics platforms. Inspect with X, you see what your actual visitor is doing. So you have a good amount of people, and that's usually the most common way to be doing analytics of any kind, is literally measuring the website traffic. I'll give you actually an interesting story. Google Analytics, a lot of people take for granted. Google Analytics used to be a company called Urchin. They used to charge a lot of money, a lot of money. Talking about tens of thousands of dollars per year. Google came along, they bought them, relabeled as Google Analytics, and made it free. So I definitely, the few people that did not raise their hands, I encourage you to really use the platform because it's something very valuable and very powerful that you're getting for free. We're going to do a second column up. Raise your hands if you're doing call tracking. Also a very important way to be measuring success. Very few people seem to be doing it. So their company is CallRail, Dialog-Tech, Mongoose Metrics, that Dialog-Tech bought now. This allows you to measure not only your call volume and record phone calls, but lets you measure your initiatives. The call tracking we do traces back all the way to the keyword, to the ad copy. I know if a certain ad copy is more likely to get me calls. Not only that, with this, you could measure what kind of calls. You could say that this ad copy drove me more sales calls. That ad copy drove me more service calls, which I'm not interested in right now. I'm trying to get sales. And you can optimize based on that data. If you're not measuring it, you really lose any visibility after someone gets to your website. And we're going to go into the third one. Raise your hands if you do audience tracking, audience measurement. AdWords Marketing does it, AdRoll. A couple of people, same as phone tracking, which wasn't a lot. With this, you could actually measure your audience. Not only measure out your audience, you capture your audience. So for a car dealership, you could actually segment people based on where on your website they went. You could track people who went to a specific car and then show them ads for that car. Very powerful for new cars. You know they're interested in a specific model. You show them a special deal you have for that model. You have a Columbus Day sale on a lot of models, but you know they're interested in that specific model. You show them that for that specific model. Similarly, even for used cars. If they were on your used car page, and you could segment this and chop it so many ways, you could do it based on how long they spend on that page. If someone spent 5 minutes looking at specific models on your page, you know they're really interested in it, you start serving them ads for that. Not only that, those ads are usually cheaper because you're not bidding on a click, you're not bidding on a search, you're bidding on that specific person. And it doesn't matter to you where that person is. You don't have to be bidding for them on Google where it's expensive or Facebook where it's expensive. You're bidding on them across the entire internet. So someone wakes up in the morning, they go to their favorite sports blog, they want to see how their team performed the night before. That's where you show them the ad. And that impression is really, really cheap because it's just a small blog website and not a big property which costs a lot of money to advertise on. So before we move on from this, I'll say that in 2017, we really should be doing all of these. In 2010, 2011, I remember some people weren't even measuring website traffic, let alone phone calls or anything else. But in 2017, to be competitive, to actually have a really good digital strategy, you really need to be measuring all of this because otherwise you're really running in the dark. Great, we're going to move on to the takeaways. How are we doing on time? Doing great. Drinks are 5 minutes away. Almost there. We'll do some great takeaways for you guys. So let's talk about everything we discussed today. I talk very quick, so we'll have a Q&A after, and you can ask me some more questions, and the bar will open. Let's go over the kind of the big pillars we talked about today. The first one up was pay-per-click. So pay-per-click is your immediate results. Literally, you come to me and you say, I just opened a new dealership, just opened a new store. No one knows about me. I have no one coming to me. What can I do? Pay-per-click is literally instant results. You set it up, you press run, right away your ads are there. It used to take an hour to show up. Now it shows up within a minute. You're literally right away getting exposure, getting traffic. Phones should be ringing, right? It depends about your volume, about your targeting, but it's the media exposure. The negative of that is you pay for the exposure. Every click you pay for. Second pillar, you have SEO. So SEO is all about long-term visibility. So you build your content. You try and get authoritative websites to link to you by building really interesting content. And slowly over time, your rankings will go up in Google. I know in my field there's a lot of agencies that promise instant results with SEO. There's also some that are more logical about it and know there are no instant results. If you hear anything about pay me this and tomorrow you'll be on top of organic Google, it just doesn't work that way. I'll tell you that off the bat. I'll save you guys some money. But SEO is about long-term visibility. It's something you should be doing month after month after month, and slowly your results keep going up. Definitely won't get instant results. Definitely won't get results month 2. Month 3, 4 is kind of where it starts building up. The good thing about SEO is that it's ongoing. You stop SEO, you don't lose anything, right? With pay-per-click, you stop pay-per-click, your ad stops showing. With SEO, you're always there. The only caveat is your competitors will probably continue to be doing it, so your ad will slowly go down. But everything being even, if everyone stops doing it, you stay where you are and you get lifetime value. If you did it for 6 months and then you decide to stop doing it and your store stays in business for 30 years, assuming this all transfers over to virtual reality and all the fun new stuff coming up, you'll still continue to rank there and you'll continue to gain value. Think of it almost as free clicks, right? Because you're not paying for those clicks, even though you keep coming up with those search clicks. Social media. So social media is interesting because a big piece of it overlaps with pay-per-click. So if you want to advertise on Facebook, if you want to boost your posts, I would put that into the pay-per-click pillar where you're paying for those clicks. The other piece of social media that's often overlooked and becomes very important for businesses like car dealerships is the ongoing communication. You really want to foster relationships. You want to keep communicating to people. For a lot of people, car buying decisions is really an ongoing process in terms of it takes a long time to make that decision. And then once you made that decision, you're really on your way to your next decision. You're on your way to the next car you're going to get, whether 4, 5, 6 years, right? Or people like me who are really into cars and do that a little bit quicker. Either way, it's really an ongoing relationship. You try to really foster a relationship not only with your sales team, but with the entire dealership. You try to get them into doors to maybe service the car. You can have holiday parties, right, where your past customers come in and you really foster a relationship. So that's how I see social media, really ongoing communication. And if you get your current customers to really interact with you there, that's how you build the new customers. Your current customers will advertise for you. You put out really good content that your current customers love. They start loving you for it, and not only that, they're going to share it to all the people who follow them. So think of it as the modern word of mouth. Literally, before, if you made a customer really, really happy, they might tell their friends or family, 4 or 5 people, that these guys are great. Now in social media, if you make a customer happy and they're big on social media, they'll literally advertise your brand to thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of friends and family. So it's a very, very powerful tool. We're going to do takeaways. If you guys still have your notepads out, I'll make this optional since it's the end of the day, but I'll do some great takeaways that you can kind of take home with you, take one sheet home with you of, this is going to be my digital strategy. And we're going to go through one by one of the items we covered today. Number 1 is going to be for pay-per-click. So you really should make a decision of how many platforms I want to be on. We covered, I think, the majority of you guys were on the first 2, on AdWords and Facebook. Bing, we lost a big part of you guys. And then the 5 platforms after, I think we lost everyone. But you can't necessarily be everywhere if it doesn't make sense for you. You have limited resources, you have a limited budget. Obviously, it's a business decision, but I want you guys to kind of, you don't even have to fill it in today. You can leave it blank like it is up there and take it back with you and kind of think about it as a business decision. How many platforms does it make sense for me to be on? Right now, it's slow season, I have the resources, let's try to be everywhere, right? Why not? If we have the resources, it's you can even have the same budget that you can split across the platforms. It just literally takes time for someone in your office or someone you're working with to implement all of this. But either way, it should be a business decision of, I want to be on just the top 2 platforms, or I want to be everywhere. This is the SEO piece. So for SEO, content, again, is literally content is king. And again, it becomes a decision. If you really don't write this down and come up with a plan, if you just go back and say, Facebook, maybe they're on LinkedIn. LinkedIn tends to be more, you should focus on those platforms. I really discourage people from kind of trying to just post the same thing everywhere because all the platforms are different. Twitter is all about 140 characters, right? Instagram, similar to Twitter, has huge discoverability. It's all about hashtags, but you're not limited to 140 characters. So you actually have a lot more hashtags. If you just repost your Twitter post to Instagram, you lose a lot of discoverability there. So all the platforms are different, and it takes time to be on all the platforms correctly. And again, I think it should be a business decision of, I think these 3 or these 4 are most important to me, that's where I want to be. This is a good one. I didn't even leave it blank. I've done this slide before, this deck before. Based on the response in the audience, we really need to set up remarketing and audience tracking. Again, that's the technology, and the technology is free. It costs you nothing. AdWords now provides it for free. AdWords really built up this technology a lot over the last 5-6 years after buying DoubleClick. And again, kind of like Google Analytics, Google just buys this up and provides it to you for free. So really, you should be using this. It costs nothing to do other than some time, some resources. And even I would say that even if you go back today and you say, you know what, I really want to think about audience tracking. I'm not really sure who I should track or who I should remarket to. At the very least, you need to get it installed, because let's say you wake up November 1st and you say, all right, I want to get going with this. Let's do audience remarketing. You don't have that audience pool. So you have to set up the tag on your website, just throw the tag up there. You really don't have to do anything else. Throw up the tag up there, and then it starts building the pool that you can remarket to. So it's really a no-brainer. It's free, and even if you're not ready for it, you should start building that pool up for later to start remarketing to them. And I forgot to mention on the past slide, the really big benefit about remarketing is that you could also, along with pages on site, you could do how many days ago they actually went to your site, which is huge for the auto industry, because as opposed to some other industries, you might not be interested in someone who was looking at that used car 60 days ago. Or you want to, let's say, you want to spend more money on the people that looked at it in the last 3 days. So it's really powerful in the exact audience that you can target. And the fifth one I'll put up there, don't be afraid to partner with an agency. I know a lot of companies that do it on their own, and that's fine. It just requires a lot of resources to be an expert in pay-per-click, in social media. And again, it becomes a business decision. Do you have the financial resources to have a guy or a girl for every one of those positions? It's very hard to find one person that's going to be your go-to for design, development, social, pay-per-click, social media, social SEO. So I'd say don't be afraid to partner with an agency. All the agencies obviously have different billing models and everything like that, but a lot of agencies are kind of on the same page as the dealerships, where the goal is for increase your results. So it's I find that I find some companies, especially the ones that have always done it themselves, are reluctant to work with agencies because they feel like it's them against me, and I'm paying them money, and they're going to waste my money. At the end of the day, a good agency will be on the same page with you, and literally their job is to make sure you succeed. That's it for me. I'm going to open it up for Q&A, and I think the drinks will be opening up right after as well. Any questions?
The remarketing was interesting when you talked about being able to cherry pick.
Yeah.
My thinking of the remarketing is we start with the tag, we get a pool,
Yes.
and then we have a campaign that we
Yes.
market to with a creative message that would be very much like something they've already seen,
Yeah.
to be uniform to our campaign. Tell me a little bit more. You said visitors in the last 3 days.
Yeah, so once you have that pool, you can really segment them in a couple ways. You could do it the duration, how many times ago they visited. You could literally do the last 3 days. Not only that, you could set up a couple of campaigns. You could set up 3 days, 7 days, 14 days, and bid differently on them based on their span. And show different messaging too.
So along the line of the messaging,
Yeah.
you can put a used car offer to those that are spending time on the used car page versus
Exactly.
Something
It
else.
becomes, you know what, we worked with a couple of used car dealers that use that extensively. The challenge for them has always been keeping track of their inventory. So it's a dual-edged sword. It's a very powerful tool if if you have the data feeding into it to back it up. For example, if you don't update your inventory, used car inventory, if you update once a week, you're going to be advertising a car that doesn't exist anymore. So that's kind of the risk with that, but definitely you could do some very targeted stuff, and it's very cheap. Not only is it cheap, if you're doing it with AdWords or even DoubleClick, which is not going to exist for much longer, you pay per click. So you're not paying for the impression. So let's say you're remarketing your guys with a very specific offer. They see the offer, they come into your store. It might not even cost you anything because they didn't click that. Not only that, it's as in my previous career when I worked at Publicis, we learned that they actually spend more of their money on that than result-driven advertising. It's all about brand building. You build capability, you build awareness, you build top of mind awareness. Think about the big brands, the Coca-Cola, the Walmarts. Those are the most important metrics to them. If you're thinking of, oh, I'm getting thirsty, Coca-Cola wants you to think of them first, so they use those kind of ads to kind of remember me. And again, with this kind of structure, it's cheap to almost free. If no one clicks on it, you're really building brand awareness and all of those fun metrics without much investment.